In April of 2019, I took a hiking trip through the northern part of Israel along a portion of the Israel National Trail from Nazareth over to the Jordan River and up around the Sea of Galilee. The town of Nazareth only had about 400 residents at the time of Jesus. It now has nearly 77,000 and is the most populous Arab city in Israel. I officially began my trip at a site called Mary's Well. It is the ancient water source for the village of Nazareth and would have been a place that Mary and Jesus would have come regularly. This is probably closer to what it would have looked like during their day. Now, of course, Mary's Well sits in a fairly urban setting. This, however, would be the start of my journey, and I will begin walking from here. Made it to the official Israel National Trail. We have the white blazes on the AT. This is how they do it in Israel. The orange, blue, and white stripes indicate the trail. So, here we go. Good to be off the road. Well, that is Nazareth, Northern Nazareth, Nazareth Elite, as they say. Just leaving there. Well, I'm currently on top of Mount Deborah, or Devorah, as the Jews call it. I had originally planned to stay here tonight, but I'm here early. It's only 1 o'clock. So I think I'm going to go and make my way to the top of that mountain, which is Mount Tabor. I know there's a monastery up there, and I know there's water. So I think I'm going to go that way. Mount Deborah is famous because it's named after the prophetess Deborah, the only judge of Israel that was a woman. She prophesied, and it somehow ended up with some dude getting a stake driven through his head while in a tent. Don't remember, have to look up the story. Good shot of Mount Tabor there. You can see how it really just sticks up out of the middle of nowhere. It is definitely a very pronounced landmark. Supposedly the site of the Transfiguration of Christ. I think it probably is not the site, just from what I know of the Bible, but it is. There's a couple churches up there and a monastery to celebrate it, so that's where I hope to be tonight. Yeah, seriously, switchbacks would be great right here. So I'm up here on Mount Tabor. Kind of took a wrong turn. What the hello is that? I don't even know what's down here. Looks pretty sketchy to me. Wow. Kind of want to explore that. We're at the top of Mount Tabor, right outside the Franciscan church. This thing here is that water faucet right over there. I basically climbed up this wall to the left from down in the cow pasture because I knew there was water here, and I am not walking any further. Young olive trees. Had a pretty good night last night. I camped on top of Mount Tabor, which is that. Really can't see the main peak of it, but it was really a pretty incredible spot to sleep. I think I'm not supposed to have camped up there, but I stayed right outside the walls of the Franciscan monastery in a really nice pasture overlooking most of northern Israel, it seems like. The lights of the monastery that they have that light up the front of the building lit up my campsite most of the night, and the bells of the monastery went off occasionally, but it was a really neat place to sleep. Man, the trip down this morning was brutal. Over 1,000 feet of elevation drop in less than a mile. Now, as you can see, I'm just sort of walking through some farmland. I think I'll be mostly out of civilization most of the day today. There is such a thing here. Trail is more of an urban wilderness than anything, but been really great so far. Look forward to seeing what's next. Grove of olive trees. And that tree's been there a while. Wonder what it's seen. I don't think I'd want to drink that. It is hot as blazes out here. Well, it is hot. There has not been shade in several hours. Really need to take a break. But there is no way I'm stopping out here in the sun. So, just gonna hump it on top, up the top of this hill, and if there's no shade, I'll just keep humping on to the next hill and probably not stop. We'll see. I could really use my lunch break. Well, I made it here to this thing, whatever this thing is. I don't know. Spaceship, observation post, I'm not sure what this is, but I made it here. It's the top of the ridge looking down into the Galilee area. From the top of where I camped last night, the Elliott viewpoint, right after I started hiking. It's the Jordan River plain after it empties from the Sea of Galilee. I think there's a trail here. This is really difficult to walk through. A lot of it is thistle of some sort, and there are rocks underneath. It's hard to see. Of course, using trekking poles in this is just about impossible. So, sure do hope that this does not continue. Apparently, is the Yavnel Valley. It's a major stream that leads down into the Jordan River, coming down off of that ridge there behind you where I camped last night. Fairly rough in here, rough country. Hello, how are ya? Good to see ya. How are ya? Good to see ya. What's up? Oh no, don't you bite me crazy. I think I've got friends. After hiking about 30 miles from Nazareth, I ended up on the Jordan River corridor. It runs up to the base of the Sea of Galilee. It's the Jordan River just below the Sea of Galilee. From here it flows down toward the Dead Sea, down basically the length of Israel. Water's cold, Jack. Felt really good though. Well, I finally made it to the Sea of Galilee. The Sea of Galilee is fed by the Jordan River in the north, and then the Jordan River flows out of the southern end. It's actually the lowest freshwater lake in the world. It's almost 700 feet below sea level. It's not as big as you might think, only about 13 miles long, about 8 miles wide. But this was a very important part of Jesus' ministry.
Before we leave Tiberias completely, I just want to point out that Tiberias is a thing mentioned in the New Testament only once. It talks about after the feeding of the 5,000, the people from the city of Tiberias, which is right there, all got into boats and traveled to Capernaum looking for Jesus. If you can picture the coastline down there, right in front of, right where the coastline meets the water, you can see, in your mind at least, all the fishing boats and the fleets of people jumping in the boats and heading off to the left across the sea, up as far to the left as you can see, headed to Capernaum hoping to find Jesus. I'm on top of Mount Arbel. It gives you a sweeping panorama of the Sea of Galilee. You can basically see the entire sea from here. Of course, there's Tiberias. Jordan River empties down there. To give you a what's what here. Down here, a little village called Magdala. That would have been where Mary Magdalene was from, most likely. And just a little ways up the coast, in this area, you can see the boats coming in and out. There's a city called Tagba. It would have been the center of the fishing industry at the time of Jesus, and it's probably the location of the where Jesus fed the disciples breakfast on the shoreline, and where he called several of his disciples, because that was the fishing industry center. It's the plain of Gennesaret, this flat area which is mentioned in the Bible, and this hillside up here is most likely the location of the Sermon on the Mount of Beatitudes, as well as the feeding of the 5,000. If you move around in the far distance, you can see a city there. That would have been Capernaum. That was Jesus' adopted hometown where he spent most of his ministry. Up and to the left is the ruins of a city called Chorazin, which is one of the cities Jesus talked about and actually cursed. And then up in there is the city of Bethsaida, where the Jordan River flows into the Sea of Galilee. That was the home, that was where Peter was from, as well as a couple of the other disciples. And if you move around, of course, the feeding of the 4,000 probably on this shoreline, and then the miracle of the swine being cast, demons being cast out of the man into the swine and running into the sea on that far shoreline. So this is ground zero of the gospel. 25 of the 33 recorded miracles in the New Testament happened right here. Pretty amazing. That is the top of Mount Arbel. Mount Arbel, as you can see, looks down into the valley all the way out to the Sea of Galilee. It's really the highest point anywhere around the sea, over 1,200 feet above the surface. It is the traditional site of the Great Commission. The Bible says that Jesus told his disciples to go meet him upon a mountain in Galilee that they had previously arranged. We don't know which mountain that was, but it would make sense that it would be given from the highest mountain in the region that really does look down upon the world as Jesus knew it in his ministry. What a view. And what a drop off. I think these cows have the right idea. How the heck they got up here? It's a whole nother question.
Seems like there's a bunch of cave dwellings on the backside of Mount Arbel. Apparently, during one of the many Jewish revolts, the Jews used them sort of as a stronghold. Apparently Herod the Great lowered Roman soldiers down in baskets over the side of Mount Arbel to take care of the rebels.
Well, clearly this was built by somebody, huh? What's up, Cal? She has got the right idea. That's what I'm saying. I mean, those are big blocks, man. Man-made. Currently standing here waiting on a bus. You can see Mount Arbel behind me, which is where I came from yesterday. Going to try to avoid this road walk. You can see not exactly the greatest scenery around, so I'm going to avoid that and take a bus. That is Tiberias across the sea. The mountain there is Mount Arbel, where I was yesterday. I'm currently up on the going to the Mount of Beatitudes. And then I'll be going down there to the valley, where is Capernaum. Those, by the way, those covered fields are banana plantations, apparently. Well, it just came from the Mount of Beatitudes. I guess I'm still on it, actually, but I'm trying to get back down to Capernaum down at the sea, which of course is just down there. The road that I would have to walk to get back there is up there and then way around that way and down. Of course, I'm a firm believer in the straight line theory, so I think I'm going to cut across this olive grove and this patch of unused land here and see if I can make it back to the sea. We'll see how that goes. I'm on the shores of Tagba. This is, as you heard me say, from the top of Mount Arable, the center of the fishing industry for Israel at the time of Jesus' death. When he was alive, actually. This is probably pretty close to the site where Jesus met back with his disciples after the resurrection. The story is that a man was on the shore cooking breakfast in the, you can imagine Peter and his disciples coming in, feeding their boats here, and them realizing it was actually Jesus on this beach cooking them breakfast. Had to be a pretty awesome scene, and it's pretty amazing to be standing here.
Between Tagba and Capernaum, there's a bunch of olive groves and other areas that have been there for centuries. It's amazing to be in a place that we know that Jesus probably spent a lot of time walking through, and to be walking in those same areas and on those same paths was pretty special. Capernaum was a very special place in Jesus' ministry. He adopted Capernaum really as his base of operations, and there's a lot of miracles attributed to Jesus in Capernaum. He taught in that synagogue regularly, healed a man of an unclean spirit. He healed Peter's mother-in-law there. He also healed the Roman centurion's servant in Capernaum. It was also the location where the paralytic was healed because his friends lowered him through the roof to reach Jesus. Capernaum really was the home base of Jesus, and it was a really interesting spot to wander through.
This is the shoreline. I'm basically standing within about 20 yards of the synagogue in Capernaum. This would have been Jesus' view of the lake in his day, his adopted hometown. Moving likely over on that bank is essentially the feeding of the 4,000, and then further on down the lake, of course, you've got somewhere out there, he walks on water. You can see Tiberias, and then Mount Arbel, which I came down yesterday. You can see why it would have made a perfect place to tell, to have the Great Commission. You can certainly see it from his hometown. You probably saw it every day. But we'll really never know. There's lots of mountains around Galilee.
From Capernaum, I walked on up around the edge of the Sea of Galilee toward the city of Bethsaida. Bethsaida lies at the delta of the Jordan River, where the Jordan River enters the northern part of the sea. Really enjoyed the town of Bethsaida. It was apparently the hometown of quite a number of the apostles. Simon Peter, Andrew, James, and John are said to be from the city of Bethsaida. It's also described as a place where Jesus healed a blind man after taking him outside the city gates and telling him not to return to the city. It's a really old town, but it was only discovered in about 2014, I believe, so that you could still walk among the ruins. It had not become, a big tourist destination. So it was nice to be able to spend time basically alone in this active archaeological site. Bethsaida is one of the three cities Jesus actually cursed. Capernaum, Bethsaida, and Chorazin, saying that he had done so many miracles there, any other cities would have repented long ago, and they apparently did not.
I guess this would have been the pavings of the gate, the main city gate going into Bethsaida. What have these stones seen? It's been here for at least 3,000 years or more that we know of, 8th to 10th century BCE. See that before they began the excavations in here, the ground would have been just a hill, and then when they excavated it here, this is what they discovered. That's why every hillside or hilltop or tell, as they say in Israel, is likely to have a city under it. A tell is a mound that just gets built over, and so all of this would have just looked like this before the excavations.
I had a whole day after my hiking trip finished in Bethsaida and decided I would take a bus to Jerusalem. I arrived in a devout Jewish neighborhood. I eventually made my way over to the old city of Jerusalem and arrived outside of what used to be the old city wall of Jerusalem, going in through the Jaffa Gate toward the old city markets.
Man, how imposing would these walls have been to someone trying to get into Jerusalem during the day. Pretty incredible. You can see how many times they have been broken down and restored on top of each other. How many different layers, with the newest at the top and the oldest at the bottom. Pretty amazing. Right down there is where I was just a second ago. Get the shot of this portion of the wall. The larger blocks on the bottom and all the newly rebuilt wall. By newly rebuilt, I mean several hundred years old. This is a Muslim cemetery here at the base of the wall. And I believe over there, which is the Mount of Olives, is a Jewish cemetery. And I'm walking up the hill toward what I believe is the Golden Gate. This is the gate through which Jesus rode on the donkey when he entered Jerusalem right before he was crucified, and it is said to be the gate through which he will return one day. As you can see, there's a Muslim cemetery right in front of it, maybe to prevent him from doing that. I'm not sure. And it overlooks, if you turn around and look behind you, there is the Mount of Olives. This is the Mount Christ ascended to heaven after his crucifixion from the top. And you'll notice here is the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus prayed the night before he was crucified, and where they came and seized him and arrested him there. Of course, there's at least 2 churches built on it, and you can see the amount of bus traffic trying to get in and out of there. But I feel like my journey is complete. I started in Nazareth, went through the towns and cities where Jesus ministered, and I am now back to Jerusalem, where he left this earth, and apparently where he will return. Been a good trip.